You've done 14 internships.
You know, I never had the goal of 14 internships. In a great way. I mean, you know, Shaq and his size, to put that into shawarma. And then the word Shaqwerma.
Works really well.
It's perfect. But John Stones and his really strong accent.
I feel for him.
Honestly, that clip just went viral.
And we're back. Welcome to a very special episode of the Creator Sessions. Today, we are joined by the wonderful G, Director of Creative and Production for the Department of Culture and Tourism, in an absolutely epic space, the heart of Louvre Abu Dhabi. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome.
So, before we get into it, we have to recognize this absolutely incredible space we're in. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Louvre Abu Dhabi?
Oh yeah, the Louvre Abu Dhabi is one of my favorite museums here. You're actually here at a great time because we've got the Kings and Queens of Africa exhibition on. So there are various temporary exhibitions that the Louvre Abu Dhabi hosts here. So it keeps you coming back more and more throughout the year. But it's a beautiful backdrop, beautiful art on display as well. So thank you so much for making the trip out here. And I think we're going to get a little bit more creative.
Yeah, 100%. I think this is the most creative location we ever filmed this podcast in. And what a beautiful spot. It's an amazing space. What was your first impression landing in Abu Dhabi? How did you feel when you first came into Abu Dhabi? And why did you decide to come to Abu Dhabi?
Oh, first impressions of Abu Dhabi, honestly, have just been super welcoming. You know, coming from down under, we are exposed, you know, to different nationalities and different cultures in Australia. But Abu Dhabi just takes that to a whole new level. It's a melting pot, you know, with I think over 200 nationalities here. So when I first came in, just being able to interact with so many people, both locals and residents, and realizing this is just such a beautiful place to live. It's super safe. And yeah, I think, you know, with the culture being at the heart of the destination as well, the destination's only growing more and more with so many new attractions and experiences. So I'm always surprised with Abu Dhabi every day.
And really represented in the gallery as well today, that melting pot that you talk about. So let's talk about you, and let's start right back at the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about the start of your career in marketing and communications, and what drove you to make that jump?
Yeah, so I've always been really interested in telling stories. I studied a Bachelor of Journalism, so I'm a journalist by trade. So I really learned back in my tertiary studies to film, edit, interview, and it became honestly pretty apparent very early on that I just love to tell stories. And so naturally, after undertaking a ton of internships to figure out what type of journalism I liked, I really landed in the ad agency world. And that was really my first go at, you know, marketing and comms, working as a digital and social media manager back before Instagram was out.
Wow.
So, back in the day.
Real storytelling then.
Real storytelling, yes, absolutely. And so I was really lucky, honestly, throughout my studies that social was on the rise. There was like an actual digital transformation also happening in the industry. So yeah, it was just such a great time to jump into that.
You brushed on that very quickly. You've done 14 internships, right? Until you kind of got to a place that you felt comfortable with the direction you wanted to go. Not many people do that. So can you tell us a little bit more about your mindset? Why did you decide to go for 14 internships, and what were you looking for?
You know, I never had the goal of 14 internships when I started. But honestly, from second year of university, once I got my first internship, I got my second, got my third, and really trying to figure out, especially during that time where social and digital was only just growing, is, all right, I'm not going to be doing traditional journalism. I'm going into the digital and social space, so I want to learn. So I interned with, you know, Melbourne Fashion Festival, and I interned with a swimwear line, and I had so many different internships. But what really, honestly, landed me back to back was going into publishing.
Nice.
And it was at a time where, you know, global magazines like Cosmo and Marie Claire in Australia were going through a digital transformation. So I was there, you know, taking a print edition and turning it into a Facebook community.
Nice.
So
nice.
Well, back in the day.
Very cool.
And you talked about storytelling there with the journalism piece, and obviously throughout your career, that's been key. What was it that led you to take that storytelling into tourism?
Oh, honestly, I think when you hear stories and the stories that people can tell, it inspired me. And no one has the same story. I'm a very inquisitive person. I think my journalistic trait is to get down and deeper into really why people do things and what experiences they take out of them. So in my time in Australia, I got to work on so many different event sponsorships like the Melbourne Grand Prix and the Australian Open. And during that time, I started meeting different travelers. So people are flying in from all over the world to Melbourne, and Melbourne activates the full city when they host a global sporting event, very similar to here in Abu Dhabi. And so just meeting people, interviewing them, jumping and pumping out really real-time content, that's what drove me into marketing for events, which is really a key pillar and driver for the travel industry.
Of course. And I think telling destination stories is very different when it comes, of course, coming from a journalism background, being inquisitive. What do you see the purpose and meaning behind being now in a position of telling Abu Dhabi's story to the world, and how do you see that your role within that as well?
Oh, we love what we do. Honestly, we're on a mission to share Abu Dhabi with the world. And Abu Dhabi, there's so much to do here. And there's so many incredible stories that we keep telling. But what I love the most is finding those hidden gems. So those hidden experiences, hearing from real people, telling their authentic story of their travel experiences here, but also seeing the different breadth of types of experiences. So hearing, when we get to interview people and kind of share their experience with the world as well. We go from family travelers to solo travelers to, girls that are coming out, on a girls' trip. We just love the different breadth of stories and experiences that people have here. And it really is, a wonderful way to continue sharing what Abu Dhabi has with the world.
What's your best kept secret for Abu Dhabi?
Like a hidden gem?
Yeah, what's your hidden gem? Yeah.
Oh, wow. Honestly, probably Liwa International Festival.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I'm not too adventurous. I am a city girl, but when I went out to the festival last year, it's the empty quarters. It's in Liwa, amazing dunes, but the festival really got my adrenaline side out, and also, just meeting a lot of the locals as well who took me through to experience the Murib dune. It was honestly a highlight. So that for me is something that now I know that every year I need to go to, because it gets me out of the city and it gets me exploring the largest part of Abu Dhabi.
And an amazing opportunity to tell stories from the people of Abu Dhabi with the wider world, right? Because that's such an important moment of the calendar every year.
Oh, absolutely. And, those are the moments and those are the events where you can also get an extremely authentic, cultural experience as well. So again, love food. So being able to have gemat fresh is incredible, but also being able to have the handicrafts. So seeing the sadu weaving, being able to drink, qahwa as well, an authentic Emirati qahwa. These are all the experiences that I love, and I love that I get to have it outside of the city as well, because you really feel like you get to meet the local people.
You can see that passion on your face. You really can. So you and your team have told some incredible stories over the last few years. I mean, you can't open a social media app without seeing something really interesting coming from Abu Dhabi. What are a couple of the highlights of those campaigns or stories that you've told?
You're right. We've done so much, and that's what keeps us going. But I think a highlight for us is probably the campaign that we did last year with Shaquille O'Neal. So we did the street food series. He was our street food ambassador. And what I loved about that is that going beyond just the destination and the experiences was actually looking at the culinary, which is a key driver for travel. I mean, everyone travels and wants to have the local cuisine and really get into the food scene when they explore a new city. So having him cover some of the best street food that Abu Dhabi has to offer landed us in a final episode, which was called the Shaqwerma.
So good. It was so good.
I love the Shaqwerma. Also extremely tasty. We worked with Bet El Khitiyar, which is one of the tastiest shawarmas that you can have in Abu Dhabi. And they were incredible. But I think a key highlight for that campaign is, and again, maybe you guys will understand that the speed of social and the speed of content that we deliver is, during one of the lunch breaks on set with Shaq, I remember I was scrolling through my social channels and one of the content creators came up, Nasser Al-Rayas. He's a proclaimed shawarma king. Wow. And so during the production, we went up to Shaq and we said, hey, do you mind if you just do a quick shout out and actually challenge Nasser to come to Abu Dhabi to take on the Shaqwerma challenge.
Know this.
And this was all done literally in the moment.
Nice.
Impromptu and real live insight. Nasser is a shawarma king. Let's go and see what we can do. But what we ended up doing is a couple of months later, when we actually released the street food series, we strategically released the Shaqwerma during the NBA Abu Dhabi Games. We flew in Nasser and his mum, super lovely to work with as well. And he challenged fans to actually take on the Shaqwerma, which was massive. He successfully completed the challenge. I do have to give him credit on that. And he probably didn't eat for a few days after that. But honestly, that's going to be probably one of my favorite pieces of work in the last year or so, because it was just super sporadic. It was based on culinary experiences. It used Shaq in a really, in a great way. I mean, you know, Shaq and his size to put that into shawarma.
Yeah.
And then the word Shaqwerma
Works really well.
it's perfect. It's perfect.
But it's such a beautifully simple approach of you're sitting there on a lunch break. That's your insight.
I know.
And how often those things can be overcomplicated, and we dig and we dig and we dig into data, but really it's you've listened to what's happening in a community and then you've made that connection. I love that.
And it was also in the moment. That wasn't planned that there was going to be a shawarma challenge, to be honest. But the moment we, you know, got, you know, Shaq aligned and he's like, yeah, sure, let's do this. I was like, all right, looks like after this production, we're going to have to start planning what this challenge is going to look like. But luckily we had a couple of months to get that together and get Ghadeer Khub out and about with us, and obviously fly in Nasser. And again, like super key highlight for us.
Perfect alignment.
Yeah.
How do you feel like the role of other storytellers, you know, play within a campaign, especially, you know, with working with Shaq, such a big name, but when it comes to like local storytellers, local influencers, how do you work with them and how do you integrate them within your campaigns?
Oh, guys, creators is literally at the heart of our content strategy. And we're seeing that trend more and more. At the end of the day, you know, travelers and people, us, we want to hear from other people. So having a creator-led strategy is crucial to our content strategy. We work with a lot of creators. I think this year alone, we're bringing in nearly 1,300 content creators into the destination. Both, you know, tier one creators, some of the names that you might know, but also really niche creators as well that also look outside of our category of travel, because we want to mix passions. We want to look at the different kind of travel inspiration behavior online and really find creators that can tell their own story of their own authentic experience of the destination. And that's what keeps it really different. There is no one story recipe. Everyone gets to be here and kind of create their own story.
That's the beauty of it, yeah. And in terms of like connecting with other communities, do you say that there's a big misconception about the destination, about Abu Dhabi, that you know, you feel like the world still is not too sure about, and there's room for them to come over and explore and debunk, let's say, the misconception?
Yeah, look, I think that's kind of with anywhere that you go, right? You have kind of a perception of a place, but once you go and you experience the destination, your perception changes. And so we hear that quite a bit from the creators that come in. There are creators that have come in with their families and they realize that the kids have had an absolute blast. And now Abu Dhabi, which was maybe a destination that they didn't consider coming this summer, becomes a summer destination for the family because of the indoor attractions and experiences that we offer. So there's absolutely perception changes once you experience a destination. And we're seeing that even with our sentiment, you know, on social. So people being able to comment and say, I had no idea Abu Dhabi had that, or I had no idea that you could do that experience.
And I mean, you've talked the sentiment changes. There's a creator-led strategy. I mean, again, you guys have absolutely revolutionized storytelling from Abu Dhabi over the last couple of years. Are there any other really core elements to that transformation that you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think, again, over the last couple of years and coming from maybe the last 15 years also working in the social space, social is truly at the heart of how people are going to, you know, get to know the destination and see what the destination has to offer. And so we have been undergoing a social brand transformation over the last year, which is really built on beyond a creator-led strategy. It's actually social intelligence. So really getting deep across all of our markets and various languages. We've got our global social team set up that are teaching us what people are engaging with online, what are behaviors, what are some niche conversations that are happening. And I like to call it culture hacking, because It's understanding what's happening in that market and that particular audience, and then being able to curate content either with the communities or for the communities. So, so that's definitely been central to our transformation story.
And with that, like, I mean, you're really zooming in on micro communities at that point, right? How do those stories from Abu Dhabi and from those communities, how do they change from a strategy a few years ago where you were telling one story to a much broader audience?
Yeah, look, I think marketing has just become so much more hyper-personalized. So we know that a one-size-fits-all is just not going to work. Everyone wants to hear a different story. Everyone's got different preferences. People are on different platforms. Yeah. So it's really understanding where our audiences are and how they're engaging, not just with our brand, but also with brands in general. And that's where we saw a massive shift to creator-led marketing, because people want to hear from people and less directly from brands. So that's what we're capitalizing on. Yeah.
Very, very much so. Where do you look for inspiration?
So many places, but honestly, I'm a very competitive person.
Okay.
So I do love to look at not just our competitors across the category, but I love to look outside of our category. Okay. So some of the retail and beauty space are doing a phenomenal job across, marketing and ad campaigns. But I also love to stay in touch with the industry. So the Drum or Campaign Magazine, just looking again at some of the key insights and trends that are coming out from some of the global marketers, keeps me very, very inspired to test my creativity.
We know how important partnerships are to Abu Dhabi and to DCT. Could you share a little bit more around the strategy and what's happened in the last maybe year or two and where we're going next?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I referenced a bit earlier that social's really been at the heart as a key driver for people to get to know Abu Dhabi and consider it. And so what we did over the last 2 years, particularly with our Manchester City Football Club partnership, is really take a social and digital first approach. And so we went beyond the Etihad Stadium and beyond the matchday programs to making sure that we're curating content with the club and with the players that we know that football fans want to see. And it goes beyond just promoting the destination. For us, the destination is such an incredible backdrop. It unlocks experiences for the players to also have a very authentic moment here in the destination, but we have fun with them too. And social intelligence helps with that. I don't know if you remember, about a year ago or so, there was a really viral piece of content of Erling Haaland, John Stones, and they were actually mentioning the Louvre Abu Dhabi, but John Stones and his really strong accent.
I feel for him. I'm just going to say it.
His really strong accent, honestly, that clip just went viral. But we used that clip and we looked at what the fans were saying and how they felt about that moment. So much so that we brought John Stones with a Kanji and Rodri right here, and he was underneath the dome actually painting, and then hung up his painting at the Louvre Abu Dhabi. So
that's amazing.
It was built on social intelligence, knowing what the fans want, but also being able to react in real time as well. So getting those funny moments and actually delivering something that fans didn't expect from the destination, but they really felt heard and seen. So we're taking those ingredients and we're now doing that across all of our partnerships. Yeah.
How do you see the development of campaigns in general for destinations between the big TVCs and that mindset of let's create a big story, a big moment, to social and digital first? Where do you see the kind of the migration of communication in general for destinations?
Yeah, look, I think with social and digital taking off over the last couple of years and building what this social universe looks like for our brand, we do need to shift the needle. And that's why, we need to look outside of category norms. Yeah. I think within the travel and tourism industry, TVCs, have always been there and have always showcased a destination very polished and beautiful. But you would have seen over the last year or so with our content, it's become so much more real. Yeah. It's real people, real stories, real moments. Actually, the best parts are really unscripted. And so we have the most fun in the editing suite when we can stitch together beautiful, films that are typically vertical first for our channel. So I definitely see a shift even more and more into more real, authentic storytelling.
And I think authenticity plays a big role in the way that we communicate and we kind of connect with each other and destinations too.
A couple of things you've said throughout this conversation, the Shaq reference, this Man City reference, being reactive and also creating that space where your team have that safety of being reactive. how have you created that environment within DCT so that if there is an opportunity that is unplanned, the team know that they can stick their hand up and you can bring John Stones to the Louvre Abu Dhabi?
Well, we absolutely work with our partners to make, that happen. But look, within the destination, and if you've seen, I think you referenced earlier, the transformation that we've had in our content and storytelling over the last couple of years, we are testing, we're learning, we're adapting, we're being very, data focused as well. So I spoke about social intelligence and just having our finger on the pulse of what's happening, which means, yes, there are, campaigns and programs and initiatives that take a little bit longer to develop, but there has to be that room for that reactive, always on piece. And so, I think that's probably the 20% of the work that the team loves doing. And I can speak on the social and creative guys because it is outside of our category. It's real time, it's unplanned. No one's maybe even done it before, so we get to do it for the first time.
Yeah, nice.
That's what gets them really excited. They get inspired. And then when we see the reactions from fans, that's when we're like, oh, okay, yeah, we did something good here. Yeah.
They can see that authenticity, right?
Exactly.
Though, it's not this polished thing, and it just connects. It really does.
So, G, we know that you're leading on event marketing in the destination. Could you tell us a little bit about how you play a role there and what's the impact it has on the destination?
Oh yeah, so when I first joined DCT, I joined to run the Abu Dhabi calendar channels, and coming from Australia, events is my bread and butter. It's where I probably thrive the most because it really all is about the on-ground live action. And so what we've done over the last couple of years is look at some of the global events that Abu Dhabi is bringing to the destination and also share that back with the world outside of the stadium. So it's activating the city, it's bringing all of our partners together to try to curate some incredible content, either with the athletes or the teams, or even with super fans that have flown in for some of the events, and actually take them across the destination and kind of share that back with them. But event marketing is a key driver for the travel and tourism industry. I think a couple of months ago, Skift actually came out with a report about live entertainment and how live entertainment is going to be a key travel decision that travelers are making, not just over the summer, but throughout the year. So, and I'm sure you would have done it as well in the past, but you see a global event happening, you think, right, I want to go there with my friends or family, and then you start planning your trip around that key event. Yeah, so that's what we're seeing a huge rise in this year. And so it's really important that it's not just about promoting the event, but also activating the destination, making the destination feel like it lives and breathes. So if you're here for the Abu Dhabi Games, you know that it's basketball fever across from the moment you land into the destination. I could probably say the same about the Formula One Grand Prix. The moment you land, the moment you get onto Yas Marina, or even if you're out in the middle of the city, you feel motorsport. Yeah, so that's going to be really important and a key driver for travel and tourism moving forward.
I think we've arrived to the section of this podcast where we get to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah, okay. So these are going to be, very quick. First thing comes to your mind, please shoot. So don't think about them too much. Firstly, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay. Here we go.
Favorite social platform?
TikTok.
Yes, definitely the right answer.
That was a quick one.
What's the best piece of advice you've received?
Ooh. Best piece of advice is probably just to go out and do it, even if no one's done it before.
Nice.
Great advice. Yeah. One emerging trend within destination marketing that you're excited about?
Oh, AI travel itinerary planning. Because I'm testing it at the moment for my personal trips. And so I thought,
nice.
Yep, we've got to get into that.
Very cool. Very cool. Any morning rituals or habits that you do with the start of the day?
Coffee.
Okay, good.
Favorite time of the day to get creative?
Early afternoon, so after a lunch break.
Oh, interesting. I wasn't expecting that.
If you could instantly become an expert in one thing, what would it be?
I would love to be a film director.
Wow, okay.
Absolutely can't do it. My team are way more skilled than I am there. But I would love to know how to operate a camera.
Wow, never say never.
Yeah. DA, you're probably going to have to help me with this.
Go. Any day.
He was had a completely different career before this. You guys maybe need to talk about that.
But
last quick fire question. One absolutely must-see thing in Abu Dhabi for visitors.
Wow.
Oh, now you need to go to Team Lab Phenomena.
Yes.
Which is right next door from the Louvre Abu Dhabi.
Cool.
just opened. It's an incredible immersive experience. So
Nice.
highly recommend.
G, thanks a lot for spending time this morning with us. It's a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Cool. Cool.